the coldest, driest, most remote continent on Earth. Its isolation and extremes of temperature make it unlike any other place on the planet. The animals that survive here are superbly adapted to Antarctica's treacherous conditions. But existence in this frozen continent will always be marginal for a living creature. Nowhere is the will to survive and thrive more on show than in Antarctica. Establishing a foothold in this frozen and treacherous land may be the natural world's finest accomplishment. Because life here exists at the very edge of possibility. Antarctica lies at the bottom of the planet, a land of unimaginable extremes. In the peak of summer, there is no night, and marine animals cross the planet for this frozen wonderland. In winter, the sun sets and may not rise again for months. Temperatures can drop as low as minus 128 degrees Fahrenheit. To survive Antarctica, the animals that inhabit this land of extremes have developed extraordinary behaviors to meet the continent's extreme conditions head-on. It's early spring on the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica, just before these penguins first dawn after winter. The temperature is 25 degrees below zero. A gale blows at around 60 miles per hour. The sun has not broken above the horizon in almost 3 months. This emperor penguin and his young chick huddle against the wind and cold. The males alone are responsible for protecting their eggs and have nurtured them until the chick hatched. Most of the penguins protect each other and share warmth. These adults have just endured months of conditions that would kill most other animals in order to bring new life into the world. Yet, they are thriving. A springtime storm comes raging out of the heart of the continent, freezing and shattering the already dangerous conditions. The chill from the powerful winds makes the storm feel tens of degrees colder. Amazingly, these birds have evolved to exploit this grueling habitat, conditions they are uniquely able to withstand. But the worst part of Antarctica's year is about to end. As the sun scrapes the horizon for the first time since winter, Antarctica is about to be transformed from a land of forbidding cold and darkness to one of the most productive wildernesses on the planet. The first day of sunlight will last little more than an hour. But it is a signal that for the animals across the polar region, life is no longer on hold. The Weddell seal is the only mammal that can survive here year-round. The arrival of spring marks an important moment in this female's life. She gives birth to just one pup that she will have to protect and feed on the ice for several weeks until it is ready to swim. She is surrounded by seemingly endless expanses of solid ice. When her pup is ready, their only way back to the water to hunt and hide from the weather will be through a hole in the ice. Water freezes quickly in Antarctica, so male Waddell seals will work to keep the ice holes from freezing over, cutting them back with their teeth, again and again. It's not an altruistic behavior. The males hope to mate with the females as soon as the pups are weaned and the females are receptive. Throughout winter, the sea ice grew until the continent's surface area had doubled. But with the return of sunlight, Antarctica undergoes tremendous changes. The pack ice that encircles it begins to break apart and melt. Many of the animals that call Antarctica home migrate along with the ever-changing ice edge. So, as the spring thaw breaks up the ice pack, they come flooding south in search of solid ice and safe places to breed. These Adelie penguins are in a rush to return to their traditional breeding location. In the space of a year, they will travel an average of 8,000 miles swimming and walking between their winter fishing grounds and their summer nesting locations. The male's job right now is to get to one of the few places of exposed rock, as they can't nest on ice. Most Adelie penguins return to the same nesting sites and the same partner every year. Some nesting sites have been used every Antarctic summer for the last 2,000 years. Before mating between this pair of penguins can begin, the relationship needs a good foundation. Made of pebbles. The pebbles are used by the Adelies to build their nests. But they are in short supply, so pebble theft is rife. The Adelie couple needs to build a nest high enough that their eggs will be protected from meltwater. When the eggs arrive, it will take 35 days for the chicks to hatch. While all other birds are hoping to build a nest and breed, Antarctica's emperor penguins are already raising their chicks. The adult females have returned from a months-long sojourn at sea. Mother and father now make multi-day foraging trips to the water, walking up to 50 miles from their breeding colonies to the ice edge. Each of the parents will have to make this long trip about 6 times before the chick is fully grown. Ungainly on land, the emperor penguins are superb in the water. They are flightless birds, but when at sea, it becomes clear that they still have wings, and flying is still in their DNA. Emperor penguins live on a diet of small fish, crustaceans, and squid. They can submerge for up to 18 minutes at a time, reaching depths beyond 1,800 feet. No other penguin can dive as deep. This group of emperor penguins has found a shortcut back from their hunting grounds, an ice hole that saves them a lengthy trip from the frozen shoreline. But ice holes are hot property in Antarctica. A crab-eater seal has followed the penguins to their secret doorway from under the ice. He is no threat to the penguins, except he may not be willing to share this rare passageway from ice to ocean. If the seal doesn't let them pass, these penguins may again face the prospect of many long marches. But as the days grow warmer, the Antarctic ice is no longer central to the story of its animals. The action now moves to the open water and some of the largest animals on the planet. Humpback whales are traveling to Antarctica. This mother left Antarctica at the end of last summer to give birth to her calf in warmer tropical waters. Now she is returning to the southern continent with calf in tow. She may not have eaten any food since she left Antarctica 7 months ago, and she needs to feed. She will need to eat enormous amounts of krill and fish in the coming summer months. Luckily, few oceans are as rich in food as the seas around Antarctica will be in summer. It is the reason that both emperor penguins and Weddell seals breed early on the ice, so that their offspring mature in time to take maximum advantage of the summer food supply. Ultimately, all animals in Antarctica rely on the sea for their food. While Antarctica is a barren, almost lifeless landmass, the water around it is much more abundant. And at its peak of productivity in summer, will host what is one of the largest congregations of life anywhere on the planet. The Antarctic seabed has barely been explored, but it may be only second to tropical reefs in diversity and richness. Even a drifting iceberg can leave food in its wake. As icebergs break off from the mainland in spring, They are blown seaward, gouging their way along the ocean bottom, bouncing and crushing everything in their path. They leave a trail of crushed urchins, anemones, and starfish on the seabed that for scavenging animals is an easy source of food. In the water above, chin-strap penguins also take advantage of the trail left in an iceberg's wake. While a late spring storm is perfect for moving the icebergs out to sea, it also makes for perilous swimming conditions. But the heavy seas are the least of the chin-strap's concerns. Because hot on the tail of spring's arrival in Antarctica come deadly predators hoping for a summer of blood. As the oceans around Antarctica begin to bloom with life, large carnivores inevitably gather. The leopard seal is here to hunt anything it can. It will stalk penguins, hoping to ambush them at the ice edge. Crab-eater seals are here for the krill, and are the most numerous seal species on the planet. Antarctica is too large, empty, and unexplored for them to have been properly counted. But it is estimated that there are between 7 and 12 million crab-eaters in Antarctica, creating a rich hunting ground for Antarctica's apex predator, orca, the killer whale. Orca are the largest of the dolphins, and they have the intelligence to match. Some Antarctic orca specialize in pack ice hunting. They team up to create waves that will wash a seal from its icy perch. They don't give up. It is just a matter of time before the seal is caught. As hunting opportunities go, this is only the beginning, because it is just days from when the sun will refuse to set, and feeding becomes a round-the-clock event. As summer approaches, the duration of daylight increases by 20 minutes each day, until sunset meets sunrise and the sun doesn't set at all. In some parts of Antarctica, it won't set again for close to 4 months. In Antarctica's summer feeding frenzy, this is high noon. A cold water salad bar of algae has been slowly growing under the ice, but now it springs into overdrive, creating a Garden of Eden for small shrimp-like krill. The krill have been here all winter long. But with the return of summer and the growth of algae under the sea ice, krill grow and multiply until in terms of sheer weight, they may be the most abundant species on the planet. Single swarms of krill may cover a square mile, extend to a depth of more than 600 feet, and weigh up to 10,000 tons. They are a keystone species. The seals, penguins, fish, and whales. Almost every animal in Antarctica, in some way, depends on krill for survival. More than 30,000 humpback whales have converged on Antarctica for their summer feast. Antarctica's swarms of krill and fish are probably the only food these massive animals eat each year. By lunging through schools of krill with its wide jaws gaping, this humpback can consume a ton or more of krill per day across the months of summer. The schools of Antarctic herring that follow the krill become a meal for the humpbacks as well. In some areas, Antarctic herring make up 90% of the fish population. They gather in dense schools. The humpbacks work together to net them with bubbles. Whales erupt from the depths, trailing a line of bubbles and swimming upwards in ever-decreasing circles, creating a net of air that herring schools must avoid. The fish are unaware that the coiling net is closing in on them, compressing them into a tightly packed area. Until some of the largest jaws on the planet open in unison to engulf another school of herring. A feast for giants, created out of thin air. The herring schools also attract orca. The orca can't efficiently chase individual fish, so they have developed their own stunning technique. The killer whales must herd the herrings close together by lunging at the school. And then they turn and swipe at the school with their tail. It can reach speeds of 150 feet per second, or more than 100 miles per hour. The orca can gather more than a dozen stunned or disorientated fish with each tail slap. The sudden increase of food in the oceans coincides with an important milestone in the lives of the emperor penguins and their young. This emperor penguin chick has been relying on its parents for food since the end of winter. But now it is the height of summer. It is time for it to fledge. Its parents must stop feeding it so they can eat enough fish to see themselves through their annual molting period. Many of the emperor chicks are now on their own. But the black tips on their wings show that underneath their down, they have already grown their diving feathers and can hunt for themselves. to take their first plunge. But the ever-shifting pack ice sometimes forces their hand. An emperor chick's down will begin to wash off during its first swim, revealing an almost fully grown emperor penguin beneath. As these young birds head out from the ice for the first time, it is the beginning of a long journey. For 3 or 4 years, they will hunt in the deep ocean far to the north of Antarctica. Amazingly, these birds have the ability to find this same shoreline after their 4-year odyssey and then navigate to their place of birth, so they too can breed. While most of the emperor penguins are already free of their parental responsibilities, for the rest of Antarctica's penguins, the hard work of bringing up their young is only just beginning. And they are protecting and caring for their chicks at the peak of summer. The chicks need full-time supervision, so the parents take turns hunting. There are always predatory skuas lurking nearby that will happily pounce on an unprotected chick. But 4 weeks after hatching, the chick has grown large enough that it can be left in a creche with other chicks, while both parents go to sea, hunting. These Adelie chicks eat up to 10 ounces of food per day. To supply that, their parents will make long foraging trips, sometimes traveling as much as 150 miles gathering food. Every journey puts them at risk. The boundary between ice and water is the danger zone for these birds. It's where predators come to hunt and to wait under the ice in ambush. These Adelie penguins know that, so they are nervous at the ice edge. When a pack of orca is on the hunt and targeting your party of penguins, sometimes it makes sense to move the party. With summer on the wane, darkness is soon returning to Antarctica. The days will grow shorter and the nights longer until late April, when for much of Antarctica, the time comes when the sun doesn't rise at all. Even on dry ground, Antarctica's inhabitants are not safe from summer predators. The penguin colonies and their ever-fattening chicks begin to attract skuas. Skuas are large marine birds with a wingspan of up to 4.5 feet. They are opportunistic feeders and will catch or scavenge a meal anywhere they can. In winter, they live far to the north and catch fish. But during the penguin breeding season, some skuas focus on catching and killing other birds. Penguin chicks are high on their list, representing a huge meal that can be captured with little risk. For some groups of skua, penguin chicks and eggs make up the majority of their summer diet. As the summer sun sets and the Antarctic days grow colder in autumn, the Weddell seals must retreat to the sea for longer and longer periods. A powerful wind, known as the katabatic, comes storming down from the polar plateau. Born in the heart of Antarctica's ice cap, the katabatic is a major driver of weather in Antarctica. As it falls through thousands of feet of height, it picks up speed, growing ever colder, wrapping all of the continent in its frozen tendrils. It is time for the Weddell seals to escape the clutches of the storm. But they don't go far. They can temporarily withdraw from the frigid weather through their hole in the ice into another world. In autumn, they will spend an average of almost 4 hours per day resting on the ice. But as winter rolls on, their visits become less frequent, and they spend half as much time out of the water as they did in autumn. Because underwater is the warmest place they can be in Antarctica. While the adult emperor penguins and the Weddell seals can remain close to the Antarctic shoreline throughout winter, every other large animal must now prepare to leave Antarctica if they are going to survive. In autumn, the floating sea ice around Antarctica begins to grow, averaging over 18,000 square miles every day. For the Adelie penguins that feed from the ice edge, a long migration begins to follow and keep up with the ever-spreading ice pack. Some will walk and swim almost 5,000 miles over a period of weeks just to get to their winter foraging locations close to the edge of ice and open water. They will feed and travel on floating ice for the rest of winter. The sunny days of summer are gone, and the punishing conditions to come are literally unsurvivable for all but 2 of Antarctica's iconic species. For the single species of penguin that remains close to the true Antarctic shoreline, one of the animal kingdom's most stunning displays of strength and perseverance now begins. While all other birds have turned north and headed far out to sea, the emperor penguins turn inland and march into the face of the coldest, most extreme conditions this planet can provide. They will make a journey of up to 120 miles that can take days to complete. The floating pack ice they travel across is an ever-changing environment, so the route of the journey may never be the same, but the destination is always the same. The rookery of their birth, built on ice that is so solid it will not move or fracture. Every emperor penguin must make this journey if it is to mate and breed. Winter is fast approaching, So emperor penguins have little time to perform their elaborate courtships. They call and swing their necks and mirror each other. It is part of their mating display. They appear successful when they lift their beaks skyward and strike a regal pose. Like victorious statues, the emperor penguins hold this stance, hoping for a successful courtship. The Weddell seals are now the only mammal remaining close to the Antarctic shore. But even they have made a retreat from the conditions above the ice. Antarctica's seawater temperatures never drop below 28 degrees Fahrenheit, while the temperatures above the ice can be 50 degrees colder. So for Weddell seals, the world below the ice is a safe refuge from the weather above. With a lungful of air, they can gently bob against the ice like an underwater blimp, resting and feeding for up to an hour at a time between breaths. As the sun sets for the final time this year, not to rise again for months, the female emperor penguins have laid a single egg and passed it over to the father for care throughout the dark night of winter. While the males will remain in the rookery, the females are free to return to the ocean to feed during the winter months. For the males, the departing of the females marks the beginning of a Herculean effort to perpetuate their genes. Throughout the depths of Antarctica's winter, the males, each with an egg resting on his feet, will huddle in the permanent darkness, sharing body heat to protect themselves from the bitter cold and winds. While the air temperature can drop to minus 50 degrees and the wind can reach speeds of 60 miles per hour, inside the huddle, it can be as warm as 70 degrees above zero. When the wind blows, the huddles are constantly on the move, slowly rotating and shifting as each individual takes his turn at the outer edge, bearing the brunt of the polar winter. The penguins hover here at the very edge of survivability, marking time in a region that is no longer part of the habitable Earth. Through Antarctica's longest night, the male emperor penguins protect their egg. But though the winter is not yet over, the perpetual night is, as the sun again skirts the edge of the horizon, bringing light to this frozen land. The rookery is in an expectant mood. It can take as long as 75 days for an emperor egg to hatch. By the time the chick is breaking through the egg, its father will not have eaten for 4 months, losing almost half his body weight. The newborn chick is hungry. It won't survive without food. With virtually no reserves, its father must produce a secretion similar to milk to sustain his little one. But help is on the way. The females are returning, fattened from a winter of feeding. The males rejoice, and using calls alone in a rookery of up to several thousand calling birds, mother and father are reunited. He has just survived a physical trial like no other in order to bring a chick into the world. She has trekked up to 120 miles from the sea to meet her baby for the first time. And to hold it. As the full strength of daylight returns to Antarctica, life begins anew in this alien place. A world in which animals shelter under both a perpetual night lasting months, as well as a sky from which the sun never sets. Life here moves forward in a stately progression, weathering the extremes and thriving in splendid isolation. They are all natural wonders created out of adversity in this timeless and distant land like no other.